When we're trying to access our Amazon account, there's a number of different ways that we can do that. So you've seen so far throughout this video series where we log into the web interface, we log in with our user ID and our password, and we're going to probably use that throughout the duration of this video series where we log in, create some EC2 instances, build a network, blah, blah, blah. But Amazon also provides CLI access or command line interface access to our account. So we can go in, we can log in via CLI, and we can start to administer some of the different functions and services within AWS. Now, there is a very big article that explains all of what I'm about to show you, and I'm going to summarize most of it, right, in how to set this up. But there is an article that you should go read that kind of walks you through exactly how to install CLI access, how to configure it, how to use it. So for example, if you go down here to using the CLI access, it'll give you the command structure, how you should actually be using these commands. It'll give you some different command output that you should see. So there's different, it's very well documented is what I'm trying to say. Now, if you come down here in the documentation to installing the CLI, you're going to notice that it gives you the four different ways, four different operating systems, if you will, that you can install the CLI access. And there are two different versions. Version 1 is being depreciated, so you can go to version 2. And we're going to install this on Windows. Now, in Windows, it'll give you some prereqs. It'll let you know. It'll give you, kind of some important messaging here. If you go to install and update your CLI, essentially what it's going to do is it's going to tell you to download this installer. Now, I already have Python installed on my machine. I've already gone in and downloaded this installer and kind of run, next, etc. And so if I go to a command prompt here, let me bring this in, and I type AWS and I do version, it should let us know what version we're on. So you can see it tells us that we're on Python version 3.7.9, we're on Windows 10, and this is the AWS CLI console 2.1.27. So you are going to need these things installed, but again, I already went and downloaded Python on my Windows machine. If you're on a Mac, sorry, can't help you. I think Python is included already on a Mac, but you can just go right to Python's website. You can just Google download Python and download the latest version, and you're good to go. Now, there is something that we're going to need to do, and that's configuring the CLI. So we're going to go to Configuration Basics. And you can see here, if you scroll down, the command that you're going to need to enter is AWS configure. And what this is going to do is this is going to give us the opportunity to enter in that access key, the key ID and the actual access key. But remember that when you create a user, that information is no longer going to be available. So if I go into my Explore CLI 21 account, this is the account that we previously created in the last video. Again, we can see that this account is a member of the administrator group, but if I go to secure credentials or security credentials, I'm going to only see the access key ID. I'm not going to see the secret access key. So again, if I neglected to write that information down, or I neglected to download that or copy and paste it, whatever it was, I can delete it, I can make it inactive, I can create a new one if I really want to, and that'll give me a second one if I wish, right? So I can grab this information here. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to say close. But you'll notice now that I have two access keys and they're both active. So again, just something to keep in mind as you're doing this. So we'll say AWS configure, and of course we need to learn how to type. So oh, come on, where's my mouse pointer here? AWS, I don't know why this is freaking out now all of a sudden. Let's close this and do it again. We'll close that, we'll open up a new command prompt. Here's where some of my Mac friends are going, doesn't happen on a Mac. AWS configure. This is going to give us the opportunity to type in the key ID. So what I'm going to do is I have that on another screen. I'll bring that in here and I'll paste it. And then we're going to have to enter the secret access key. So we'll go ahead and we'll put that in. So let me just copy and paste that from Notepad on another screen. And we'll paste that in. Now, this is where it's going to ask us for a region. So if we come back over here, it wants to know what our default region is. So this is where, again, you're going to have to understand, well, what were some of the things that we were doing previously, right? What were some of the things that we were learning in previous videos? What is the region that we're going to want to select in configuring this? Well, if our default region is US East, that's what we're going to put here. So we're going to say US East. And again, if you go into the configuration, it tells you what format you should put that in. So we're going to say US-East-1. Let me find my command prompt. We'll say US-East-1. The default format, we don't really care. We're just going to say enter. And at this point, our CLI is configured. Now, if I want to verify this, I can come in and I can say AWS configure list, and I can see what my configuration is. So even though I don't get access to the keys, I can see the last 4 digits here, and I can see what the configuration is. Now, another thing that we can do with our CLI is actually get information regarding our EC2 instances. Now, there is just a mountain of stuff that you can do with the CLI. So in no way, shape, or form is this meant to be an exhaustive video, but I did take a pause from this video. I went and recorded a separate video on how to just turn up an EC2 instance. And if I go in here to my dashboard, you can see that instance is now running and all the checks check out. So let me go back into my CLI here. I've gone ahead and cleared the screen because we've verified the configuration. Let me click on this instance ID here, and let's check out some of the information we get. So you can see I get the instance ID. This is going to be important in a minute, so I'm just going to copy that. So let me just snag that. You can see the instances running. We can see the public DNS information. So again, if this is a web server, we can see how to get to this instance from the public web. We can see what the private IP address information is. If we scroll down, we get more information, such as that it's an Amazon Linux instance. We can see what the AMI was. Again, we're not getting into that in this video. We can see what security groups this instance is a member of. So again, and I apologize for having this in the middle. If you're not familiar with how to do this, I would definitely maybe pause this, go watch the creating an instance video, and then come back to this. I apologize that it was in the middle, but halfway through, I realized, you know what, I want to show these folks something meaningful in the CLI. I don't just want to show them, hey, yeah, verify your config. I want to show you guys that you can actually get some really cool data from the CLI. So again, remember that I just have the MSI installed. I have Python installed. I haven't done anything. I haven't configured Python. All I did was install the MSI file from Amazon, from that download. All I did was go through the configuration with you folks, and now here I am. So I'm going to type Amazon. I'm going to type EC2 because that's what I'm interested in, and I'm going to use the command describe, and I'm going to say instances. Now, if I just hit enter here, if I've done my job properly, what's going to happen is I'm going to get a screenshot, an output, a JSON format, if you will, of every instance that I have running. I may not want to do that, so I'm just going to scroll down to the bottom here for a second. I may not want that, right? I may have 1,000 instances running, and I need to narrow it down a little bit. So I'm going to do instance IDs, and by the way, if you're confused, if you're lost here, all of this information is on the web. So all of this information, all the commands, all the command structure, everything can be found on AWS's website within their documentation. So, there are many, many, many commands that you can run, and the help menu within this command prompt, within this CLI is awesome. So if you're looking for something that you need to gain access to, just type help and you're going to be fine. So here what I'm going to do is I'm going to narrow it down. Yes, it's the same output, but who cares, because we only had one instance, so we expected that. But I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and just go up. You'll notice here that I'm getting essentially everything from the user interface I'm getting now from the CLI. So I get exactly what the name of the instance is, or the application. So remember when I was telling you folks that I always like to give things tags and labels? So here are those labels. When I set up the instance, I gave it a name of Explore Demo. I gave it an application name. The application that this quote-unquote web server was going to be a member of was our EC2 demo. So here's the security group that it's a member of. It's the demo security group. Here's the subnet and the VPC that it's on. Here's the different public and private DNS. And so as we have access into our CLI, we're actually getting all this information from the command line without having to go into the user interface and kind of click around. We can just open up a command prompt. We can say AWS EC2, describe instances, enter, and boom, we're done. Now, you don't necessarily have to use the instance ID. Again, this was not meant to be an exhaustive video. You could do it based on name if you want to. There's a lot of different ways to pull up this information because you may not have that ID readily available without having to go check the UI, right? It would be silly for you to go check the UI and then paste it into the CLI. But my point is that now all of the things that you get in the user interface, the web UI, you can now gain using the CLI. So again, if you're an old junkie like me and you like to see this kind of output, the CLI is where you should play. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I really, really hope that you guys will play around with the command line, that you'll play around with a lot of the different things you can do with it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.